Hey guys, so ignore the mess. I'm really sorry. I'm in the process of moving and I don't have my backdrop, can't hide all this crap. My closing date got pushed back and it's been like a whole thing, so half my stuff is in boxes. So you have to just please excuse the mess. Today, what we're doing is we're designing a map using the brushes and tools from Map Effects. I was doing a live stream a couple weeks ago and I was looking at the map, and the map that I had is old, first off. Also, it is not very pretty. I really don't like it. I've learned a lot more about map making since then. Not that I'm by any means like real good at map making. I just don't I didn't like the way it looked, and also that was a different tool. It wasn't like Dungeon Draft or anything. The Map Effects stuff is using Procreate. This is the only reason I actually own an iPad and pencil, is because I bought Procreate so that I could design different layouts for my notebooks and like different little artwork pieces, etc., etc. So I use Procreate mostly for the shop stuff, and I was like, well, there's a set of brushes, maybe I could try using that. And then I was like, well, we could turn this into a video. So here we are. You get to experience Map Effects with me. This is the first time I have ever used it, so no promises. Also, I'm not very good at Procreate either. I've only been using it for about a year and not consistently. We're gonna do a little overhead cam on the desk. It's gonna be a whole new setup. You're gonna either love it or hate it. So here you go. This is my dice bag, in case you were wondering. Tried to make it aesthetically pleasing, but it's also my gaming desk, so you get what you get. All I've done so far is download it and add the brushes into Procreate. I also organized my brushes because I'm an organizational freak. I download a lot of brushes. This is what Procreate normally looks like. I just opened up like a screen size canvas because I don't know what size I really need it to be, and I figure I can crop it and whatever. I did pick a color palette, and maybe I'll put it on there. This one's called Cold Brew. I actually have like a whole bunch of color palettes that I downloaded from someone. I paid for them. I can put a link. They have so many different colors and it like kind of covers everything. So I picked Cold Brew from them because it's got a lot of browns in it, and I'm going for that old style map. And then I did, like I said, organize the brushes. So this one that's labeled maps is all the brushes you get from it. And you can see like, here's all the different kinds of brushes. And we'll probably use a lot of these. But not all. Like they even have grids and stuff. They got borders. It is around this time that my furnace kicks on and my audio turns to shit. So to save your eardrums, I will be doing this in a voiceover format, and I might put in clips from my actual reaction to things here and there, but honestly, this will probably cut down on the rambling. So the first thing I did was run through all the brushes to get a feel of what was available. You'll see me doing that really quickly here. There are so many sections and it's all pretty useful. You can see like foliage, rock formations, textures, city indicators, etc., etc. Once I got a feel for what was available though, I kind of realized I needed more inspiration on what a map like this should probably look like. So you'll see here in a second, I end up pulling from Map Effects' Pinterest board. Obviously, he is a pro map maker and I'm more of a beginner, so I just pulled something that would help me with general design. This particular map has a little bit of everything, so I thought that would help me. Then right here, I'm actually talking about layers. So I make a lot of layers in Procreate. This makes it way easier to edit things later. Unfortunately, later on, I realize I messed something up and then I have to fix it and it's a whole thing. But it does help me erase and not erase everything. Then I chose one of the double-lined coastal brushes for this. He has two versions, one with the line on the inside, one on the out, so I do have to switch. And then I kind of just go. I try to make it a organic looking coastal edge. You can see me zoom in at times and like fix certain sections, because if you pick up your brush, you're gonna create extra lines unless you have a really steady hand. You're probably just gonna have to go in and edit like this. Once I finished the western edge, I added an island following the coastline as closely as I can. I think the key to this is to think Pangea. All There you go. That looks pretty good already. Not to like toot my own horn. I add in a little tiny island on the western coast before I move on to the eastern coast. To keep it clear what is water and what is continent, I decided to fill it in, and these colors will change later. But I tried to go for a more saturated color for the water, a less saturated color for the land. I also put them in 2 different layers. With the water layer in its own layer, I use Alpha Lock to make it so that I'm only drawing on the water, and then I chose the ocean hatching brush and started adding hatch lines to the coastline. 2 things I noticed is you want to make sure your page is super straight, and the second thing is if you pick up your pen, you want to make sure you keep the same angle. Later I go in and clean these lines up as well, which you'll see in the shading video. The mountain ranges are the biggest feature of this map, so I wanted to hit those next. I put these in a separate layer so that I can go in and edit. And then there was a lot of different brushes, so I try to use as many of these different stamps as I could so it doesn't look like I'm copying. I do try to keep all of the brushes at 10%, which is a little bit tedious, but it does add to the other thing you can do that I'm not doing is you can actually select and then move things around too. You can do this, and then I can move it a little bit. Can even make it a little bigger. Yeah, that's good. And then we'll do that to this guy too. There's that, and then I'm actually gonna erase here, which is another reason I put it on 2 separate layers so I can easily erase and adjust it. And then these 2 mountains, oops, these 2 mountains are a little crooked. I'm just gonna adjust it. The other thing is I am varying the brushes so it doesn't look like you're just copy and pasting the maps. I pause on the mountain ranges and I end up drawing a little lake at the top, again using the coastline brushes, but I ended up using them backwards. As you can see, the thinner line is actually inside the continent. I do fix this later on though. The other thing you'll see me do is that I actually erase along the coastline anything that hangs over, since this is right up against the edge of the coast. And then because there are so many cool brushes, I end up adding like a caldera and all these other things just because I have those as options. Liking what it is. I like this. This seems like it could be where a river comes through. So let's do that. Let's add some rivers. So here is a narrow river. How big is that? Not too big. Again, we want it to kind of come out of here, right? Maybe through this pass. Now, down here is going to be like a river delta. It'll be kind of swampy there. There's going to be a big lake here as well. A thing to note is I tried to make sure that the rivers are on the continent layer so that it makes it easier to color them in later. I also tried to use some of the lake stamps for this. It didn't work for the one in the north, but for those other 2 lakes, they worked perfectly. And just like everything else, I go in and I clean up the lines, make them a little bit more wiggly, make certain things look more natural. Then I fill them in. I did, of course, go in and like thicken the one river lines as well as make more blemishes. And then I tried to make a river delta like marsh area, and I ended up just using a thin brush for that to make it seem like there are many tributaries down there. For some reason, this one river you'll see I hated the way it looked. It just looked like too perfect and not natural at all. So I added a lot more wiggly lines to it and then went in and actually hand drew it even further. The cool thing is that this Map Effects pack comes with the same brush that he uses to draw all of the different brushes. So it's pretty easy to kind of make it your own that way. And so that's what I did. From there, I moved on to the forest. I kind of did the same thing I did with the mountains, used varying stamps, also decreased the size to about 10%. I put them on their own layer so that it's easier to manipulate and move them around. You can see that I used the selection tool a lot to kind of pick up particular trees and move them exactly where I want them. And then I also spread small groupings of trees throughout the map. I do use mostly the pine forests in the north, and then I ended up putting more of the deciduous trees down in the south because that to me makes sense. After the trees, I do move on to the cliffs, and a lot of this is going to be the same. So to spare you from me talking about how I use the varying stamps, I'm only going to cut in when I do something different, like now. So I like this guy, but he's facing the wrong way, so we're going to just do a little flip. The rest is the marshes, the different hills, the dunes. You'll get a sense of all the different stamps that are in this collection. And I just do the same thing I do with everything else, different layer, vary the different stamps so it doesn't all look identical. You can skip to the next chapter if you don't really want to watch the time lapse. Once most of the objects are in, I end up going in with the texture brushes and trying to add like cracked earth, some grass, those kinds of things to add more texture to the map. I think I'm gonna lower the opacity of this just to make it so that the texture blends in better with the background. Yeah, I think that kind of makes it look less cluttered too. Next is the cities and towns. One thing I try to keep in mind when placing cities is what are the resource sources. So in particular, water or trade goods. So a lot of major towns are actually near water. And there's one here that is in like a fertile basin, which has a lot of farmland. There's one on the edge of a forest because obviously we need to import lumber, things like that. So keep that in mind when placing towns. Next, I worked on the roads, which was actually pretty hard because it wanted to curve with my brush, and then the dash line just didn't look very good. So you'll actually watch, and I zoom in really close, select certain aspects of the line and move them around. This is another reason having it on a separate layer is good. So you're only selecting the little dash line and not like the trees or whatever is sitting on. The other thing is I don't put all the icons on the map. Like there's these really cool standing stones, these portals. I don't want to give my players more places to go, but also I don't want to add things until I know exactly the direction that the players are going, and they'll change the world and they'll probably, add
side adventures where I will need standing stones, but I'd rather put it close to where they are than all the way across the world. You can see here I get really close in. I move trees around. Again, good that they're on a separate layer so I can do that. And then just to make room for the road, but make it look more natural, like I always intended there to be a road there. Next, before I do anything else, I'm going to go in and name all the individual layers so that when I duplicate this map, they'll be in a format that I can easily recognize. And then if I have to come back to this and have the individual layers and edit something, I can.
Next time we will go over some shading and naming things and all of that. Until then, I hope you like this video. If you want to check out the map effects stuff yourself, I'll leave a link down below. I'm doing like a map making spree this month, I think, this month and next, so I'm gonna have some more map making tutorials coming out, some in digital tools like Dungeon Drafts, some in this. So if you like that kind of stuff, be sure to subscribe. I'll also put some links up here so that you know where to find some of that other stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!